Welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to discuss a case study. So we're going to discuss an actual case of a client without using their names or their identity. And the purpose of this case study is to make you realize the boundary problems that people have. Now, actually, we do this as a part of an ongoing part of our training called as Build. Build is my signature program where we train people on how to be boundary helpers. That is, how to set and respect other people's boundaries. They understand what are boundaries, they understand how to go ahead and help people and also help themselves so that they cannot get manipulated anymore, and also they can live an assertive, confident, and an interdependent life. So that's what we do in Build. And just to move ahead, if those of you who are not familiar with what boundaries are your property lines. In a way, they are what define you. Just as you have a property line that protects your property, a gate that protects your property, a fence that protects your property, in the same way, emotionally and psychologically as well, we need to have boundaries or fences that protect us, to keep the good in and the evil away, so that you don't get manipulated, so that you don't get played upon. So it's a very simple process. At the same time, you require good amount of training, good amount of mentorship, so that you can step by step get more power in your life by setting healthy boundaries. Now let's move ahead in this case study. So this is a case study where we realize that there is this 42-year-old woman who had few boundary problems. Let's take it one by one. Part 1. So here's where I have actually copy pasted the entire case study so that we can go step by step. As we go ahead, I'll be showing you the boundary problems that this lady has. So she's a 42-year-old, and you can see here, this is her language, by the way. This is exactly her language. I've been in an extremely lonely, abusive relationship. Look at the choice of words. Extremely lonely, abusive marriage for the past 19 years, 24 years total, which means the boundary problems or the problems in the marriage started afterwards. 19 years is a long time. Now, normally people realize that they need to heal their marriage, or they need to do something about it, or sometimes even people realize that it's not going to work, but that happens within 3 years. But 19 years is a long time. Now, this is really a very long time. So what do you think was the reason why she stuck around for 19 years? And the language is extremely lonely, abusive marriage. That's very important for us because we're going to spot out the boundary problems over here. Now, a person who keeps on tolerating an abuse is called as a codependent. Somebody who is in a relationship as a rescuer, as a healer, and somehow has identified himself or herself to be a rescuer and a healer. So these people always gravitate towards problems. They gravitate towards people who are abusers, and they feel that their identity is all about rescuing someone. So there are clear signs of a codependent over here. Now, if you do not know what's the meaning of codependent, I'll be sharing a link where you can have access to my short audio course on codependency. So the link will be shared in the description below. Alright, so 24 years together. So here's where we have identified that she is definitely a codependent. And then she goes on to say that her children, who are 19 and who are 17, 19 and 21 years old, and they also have a 22-year-old son, all of them seem to be great people on the outside, but they all treat her very badly. Now that again is a sign of someone who tolerates abuse, not just in a spousal relationship, but also from her own children, because that's become a habit for her. And in her boundary language, it seems to be very clear that she is compliant, a person who cannot say no, and a person who seems to say yes to everything. A people pleaser, a classic people pleaser. And look at this. I know I try to buy their love and affection because of my low self-esteem. Now, one great thing about this lady is that she knows that she has a low self-esteem. Many times people don't know that. She has a self-awareness of that. Now, you need to note one more thing. Just knowing that you have a low self-esteem or just having self-awareness is not enough, because all of these things are now deeply embedded in the unconscious mind. Some people also call it the subconscious mind. And so to change this behavior, just having an awareness is just the first step. And if you stop at awareness, it doesn't help. Now, because you must have realized many times by reading a lot of motivational books or watching some videos, you know that you have a problem, and there's no need of a expert therapist to point out that you have a problem. You know that you have a problem, and you just know that no matter what efforts you take, they're just not working. That's exactly what we do in Build. We program your unconscious mind. In my program Build, we actually go to program your unconscious mind so that you are healed. And that's exactly what we need to do for this client as well. So she knows that she has a self-esteem issue. And as you go ahead, you look at it that she says, to the outside world, we look like we have a perfect life. Now, this is also a classic example of a compliant, because many times compliants are wonderful people who can mask the abuse that they are facing very well. They are people who smile a lot, they're people who laugh a lot, and they seem to be a very joyful and a bubbly people. But then deep in the inside, there are problems, and these problems are huge. And look at her professional life. My husband and I both have high leadership positions with high salaries, and they're doing well professionally. It looks like that. And then look at the last sentence that she says. However, the bad days are extremely painful and traumatic. We know the bad days have been lasting for 19 years. These are not bad days. This is almost a quarter of a lifetime. And look at the language over here. I feel like a fraud. This is another sign of a person who knows that they are not living an authentic life. Remember, when you don't set healthy boundaries, you are not living an authentic life. No matter how saintly you are, no matter how good you look to everyone else, you will feel like a fraud to yourself. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, or when you take a moment to think about yourself, you realize that there is a great discrepancy. There's a great gap between who you're supposed to be and who you are. Then it goes on to say, I live my life with a genuinely positive outlook while always trying to learn and grow and do better. She's doing her best. There's no doubt about it. I take on a lot of projects to distract myself. It should be projects to distract myself from my broken heart. I know a lot of people, however, I feel like I don't have any real friends or family. Now, this is not just a compliant. This is where we get another part of her persona, and that is she's a compliant avoidant, a very dangerous combination. Who's an avoidant? An avoidant is someone who does not open up to others, does not share problems, always makes others feel that their life is great. They solve other people's problems, but they never open up. In other words, avoidants are people who do not take the good in. They only take the evil in. They do not take any advices. They just close themselves. So it looks like she has a lot of friends and people, but they're not really friends because she never opens up. I'm the one who makes the most effort to keep in touch, but lately it has been exhausting. Of course it is exhausting. You can only act so much. Ultimately the well runs dry. And then look at the frustration that you can see in her language. I'm starting to have an F it type of attitude. You know what that means, right? Where I want to block everyone out of my life by no longer being the first to text or extend an invitation. So she doesn't want to do it, but she somehow is compelled to do it, and she doesn't want that anymore. She's definitely frustrated and she's ready for a change. Now she goes on to say that it's an honest confession. I come across to those who know me personally is happy and well put together. We know this is a part of behavior pattern of compliant avoidant. They look all great on the outside. Now there is a hint over here for you as well. If you have any friends out there who seem to never be having a problem, who always show a very rosy and an amazing life ahead, they are definitely hiding something. This also goes on to say that When you look at Instagram and Facebook and you see all perfect lives, there is definitely trouble lurking beneath, because authentic life is one which is filled with a lot of problem solving that needs to happen. There's no person who lives an absolutely blissful life where everything is going fantastically well, because in that case there's no growth happening. So that's a point to be noted. Let's go ahead. And someone in a long, successful marriage with great kids, I'm always the positive force in the room who cheers up everyone around me. It looks like she's saying that it looks like to everyone else that there's a long and a successful marriage. It looks like nobody else knows what's happening from the inside. Again, compliant avoidant. I fix everyone else's problem. If they need help, they need money. Now, this is very important. It seems like she doesn't have healthy boundaries when it comes to money. And the root cause of many relationship problems is when you are a very, very good lender, when you give money freely to people without taking accountability. It looks like she has that problem also, because she says she fixes everyone else's problems. Now, remember I told you a person who looks and hunts for problems and keeps on fixing other people's problem is a person who's a codependent. Again, that has been reinforced over here as well. So whenever people need to talk, they need money, she's there. They all call me. I seem to be energetic, ambitious, because I'm involved in so many great things. There's nothing bad in getting involved in a lot of great things, but if you're doing it without authenticity, if that is not what you want to do, you're just doing it as, a defense mechanism or a show, then that can exhaust you. And I'm sure many of us have this experience of smiling a lot and then from the inside we are actually hurting. So it looks like she has major boundary problems so far, major boundary problems. Now she's tired. She says, I am tired, sad, and I stay busy and distracted as much as I can. Now I have seen this classically in many working professionals. They take up more than they can and they keep medicating themselves with a lot of work. And that has a very bad effect on their health, on their interpersonal relationships, also on their intrapersonal relationship, their relationship with themselves as well. Now, what do we do in this case? Whenever you see someone who is just trying to do a lot and avoiding a particular part of their life, it means they're really hurt. And normally compliant avoidants, they do that. They know that there's no one to talk to. They know that they do not open up to anyone. So what do is they fill their time with a lot of projects, too many projects, so that they don't have time to be sad. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Your mind, your unconscious mind, is always working in the background. So although you may not feel sad consciously, that sadness has already invaded your personality. And that will show in your physiology as well. When people start having a sad look in their face, they don't know that they are looking sad, but it's just there. The eyes also speak everything. Their eyes look tired. There's no luster in the eyes. There's no spark in their eyes anymore. The eyes speak the language of the soul. What's happening from the inside. And she says she dresses very well and puts everything well, but then she knows that that's not it. There is a problem. Now, we have also not looked at the husband or the children. From what she says, it looks like the husband is a person who does not actually respect her emotions, because the spousal relationship is supposed to be a very intimate relationship. We're supposed to know each other deeply. But it looks like she's the only one who's doing the work. Now, in boundary language, we call a person who does not respect or does not look at other people's emotions or is just aloof. We call that person as a non-responsive, a person who's just aloof. It looks like the husband is partly also non-responsive, because if he was responsive, then she would have a person to confide, but she doesn't have anybody to confide to. So it looks like the husband is a non-responsive over here. Can we say that the husband is a manipulator or abusive manipulator? Yes, he definitely is. That's another boundary problem, when people are loud and brash and they just want to have things their way. They don't care about others. So yes, you can see those things as well. Now, how did the children turn up to be that? How did the children turn out to be that? The problem is, whenever you have a couple, which is, let's say one is compliant avoidant and the other is a non-responsive, the children tend to take on some traits of narcissism. Now that's more dangerous. Why? Because narcissists are people who absolutely are on the other extreme. They don't care for anything apart from themselves. So that is a danger. When you do not heal your spousal relationship, the children tend to take on narcissism. Either it can be the narcissism that she shows right now, that they don't actually care for her feelings, or it can also be that the child can become a compliant like one of the partners in the relationship, and then attract other abusers in their further relationships. So this kind of a child may go out and attract an abuser or a manipulator in a romantic relationship. So we also call that as the unconscious coupling. The unconscious coupling. Unconsciously, people whose boundaries are violated, they tend to attract the opposite. That is, a person who's very compliant, always saying yes, yes, yes to everyone, tends to attract, in a romantic relationship, they tend to attract a person who's a manipulator, loud and brash, or sometimes even a cunning manipulator. So that's why we have many relationships where we have so many narcissistic relationships where one of the partners is a narcissist and the other is a codependent. Now, all these terms will be more familiar to you if you have not been part of my program Build. I definitely encourage you to go ahead and register for that program. It's going to be a life-changing program. I'm going to show you a lot of testimonies of people whose lives have been changed. In any case, let's move ahead. There are more things to be seen in this particular case study. So here are the questions that she herself asked. Where did I go wrong? Now we all know where she went wrong. In the first initial stages of her marriage, that is first 1 or 2 years of her marriage, that's where she has realized that there are patterns where she's been taken for granted. So the step number 1 for her was, where she went wrong was, she did not realize that she's a compliant avoidant. She has to make major changes in her personality. Definitely a boundary coaching will be the thing. Because if you do anything apart from that, you may go roundabout and then come to this point of setting a healthy boundary with yourself. So definitely she requires boundary coaching, where she will realize that number 1, she is a compliant avoidant. Number 2, these are the traits that she has. Number 3, what does she want to do? What's her outcome? What does she want to be? Definitely she wants to be more authentic. So number 4 will be the changes that are required that she needs to do. And number 5 will be one by one, step by step, taking baby steps at a time, learning to say no, learning to stand up for yourself, and finally experiencing the freedom of setting a healthy boundary with people. Now, how do I find my happiness and get my life back on track? That's exactly the process as I mentioned. Your happiness is not dependent on your spouse, nor is it dependent on your children. Your happiness is within you. Once you realize who you are, and then when you change, either the spouse or the children need to respect that change and make their changes also, or if they do not feel that that is required, or they don't want to invest that much in the relationship, then they will automatically, this is quite sad to say and this really happens, automatically they might fall out and they might come back sometime later. But in any case, now you have found your happiness, so you can move ahead with more fulfillment in your life. And she says it was never on track. How can I begin to build a happy and fulfilling life? Understand who you are, understand your boundary issues, and then set healthy boundaries first with yourself. How can I gain loving, strong, fulfilling relationship with friends and families? Now here's an important and very interesting part. The moment you set healthy boundaries, the moment you begin to do that, you're actually tapping into self-love. And self-love is the foundation of all love. It's a foundation of every other healthy relationship. So in our Build program, on the last day, we do a one-on-one session on bonding. This is where I teach people how to go back to their bonding moments and start bonding with themselves. It's a very unconscious process, highly powerful. A lot of changes happen in that. That's where you begin the process of self-love. And that is what she needs to do. Because when she does that, then every relationship that she attracts will be a relationship of equals. It will not be a abuser and a savior relationship. It will be a relationship of equals. That's what she needs to look for. Supporting an working, I know that there's more to life than working a corporate job, supporting an ungrateful family, and being overweight, unhealthy, and sad. Now, here are, when she closes her statements, here are some more words that show how does she look at herself. And this is another trait. Compliance and avoidance, when they look at themselves, they always see the negative aspect about themselves. They believe others. By the way, overweight, unhealthy, and sad. Overweight definitely is not a word that you will ever use for yourself. It's a borrowed word. When I say it's a borrowed word, you have heard this over and over again from society. And society has been bombarding you with that. And that's the reason why she feels she is that. Because if I actually show you the picture of this client of mine, you will never say that she's overweight. That's the reason why I'm telling you this. Because she feels she's overweight, and this is because she doesn't know who she is. She does not value herself. That's why others don't value her. So this is all about this particular case study, and I know by now you must have realized how people go through life without healing their own boundaries. So I invite you to take a deeper thought. Ask yourself, if this is how it is by not setting a healthy boundary, what if I learn to set healthy boundaries? What if I understand what these boundaries are? What if I learn this? How many problems can I solve? How many future problems can I altogether avoid? How much more fulfillment can I have in this life? Just imagine, had this client of mine known this 19 years ago, 19 years that she spent in abuse and torture would have been 19 years of thriving happiness and fulfillment. So think about the cost of not setting a healthy boundary. Look at your own life at this point of time. Do you need this? Do you really need to tap into self-love? I'm sure you do. So please go ahead and check the links in the description. Get back to us, schedule a call with us, and we can help you to set a healthy boundary. This is Ajay Almeida from Powered Living. I am a boundary coach. Thank you for watching this video. More case studies ahead, many more resourceful videos ahead. Go ahead, subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much.